Cool. So when Elson asked me to do this, I was like, okay, I want something short and sweet. And I kind of was racking my brain of, it's a lot easier to do 3 hours worth of stuff than maybe 10 minutes. So this is sort of where we landed here, and then I'll pass it over and let the Tiiny.Host guys do their bit. But really, what I kind of going to talk about, I'm going to try to, in about 10 to 15 minutes or so, kind of encapsulate kind of what's at least my taking and what my experience is, kind of the art and science of e-learning. And one of the things, maybe you guys can relate to this, a lot of the world thinks, oh, anybody can do it. Let's just give it to, John or Sue. They're good with computers. That's just, anybody can do it. And really, once you get into it, or if you've had experience with it, you know that there's a lot more that goes into building effective e-learning and online courses and content than just being good with the software. So all kinds of stuff that we could do an entire webinar on, but we won't do that today. And so really, anyone can do it, but not just anybody can do it well. So I think that's a really important thing to note. And so what I'm going to kind of walk through here, just 3 keys to be successful at doing that. So doing it well, there's 3 big components to that. And the first part is to do the right thing. And that might sound really, really simple, but I think all of us have also probably had the experience of, you get a call from a boss or a director or whatever level, we need this course, we need it by tomorrow, we need it by Monday, whatever the case might be. But part of our responsibility as being a professional is, before we run off and build anything or start any kind of work, is to confirm that training will actually fix what the issue is, or help what we're trying to achieve and reach those goals. So if you haven't seen this model, this is based originally on Thomas Gilbert's behavioral engineering model. And these are some of the factors that impact performance. So if something's not happening to the level or not happening the way you want, these are kind of the factors that go into that. And, I'm just curious, A, if you've seen this before, and B, if you take a look at that, of those 8 kind of categories there's 4 environmental factors and 4 individual factors. How many of those can training solve? Right? So if you want to speak, that's cool. If you want to just drop it in chat, like, A, have you seen this before? B, which of those categories would you send training as an intervention? Elson, I'll put you on the spot. You're a non-instructional designer stuff here. What do you think of those? What will training solve?
Question. So I think training with things such as process and work environments and tools and resources are obvious ones. I mean, from my experience, a lot of the e-learning, courses and trainings I've done in corporates in the past have been things regarding security, as well as trying to make sure that everybody's in line with certain policies and processes in the company. Because if things don't go the right way, there could be massive lawsuits and issues there. But I'm wrong. Skills
yeah,
are not.
No. So really, if you think about it, right, like training can't change a process, or it can't change the work environment. Maybe there could be training involved to make that change happen for the people who have control of it. But as somebody who's living in that environment, training will give me knowledge and skills, but it doesn't impact that context that I'm working in.
Got it.
Same thing with all these other things. If I don't have the right tools, if I'm building a house and I don't have a nail gun, I've just got an old school hammer and nails, training is not going to fix that, right? So part of that discussion when you get these type of requests is confirming, hey, is this a skills and knowledge issue? Okay, we can proceed. If not, we may need to look at other things. So buy them better tools, change the process. We've all experienced processes that are just a mess and hard to get through. Well, let's change it. It's one of the best examples of this is if somebody comes to you and says, hey, we need training because nobody's flossing their teeth. Well, everybody knows how to floss their teeth. It's not a training issue.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a real simplistic example there. And if we don't have these types of, it's almost educating our stakeholders, our clients, because most people don't, they know a course, that's the only thing they know. They don't have the broader perspective. You may still lose that conversation. I was just saying the other day, I once built a 2-minute long course because they said you have to have training, and we knew that training wasn't going to solve what they were trying to do. And so we were just trying to minimize their time away from work. Okay, they said we have to do it. Here it is, get in, get out, check the box, and move on. Sort of like the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm.
Yeah.
So that's the first part. Is the other thing is, if you just do say, yes, thank you, sir, may I have another, and you run off and build that course and it doesn't work, who are they going to look at as having, failed? They're not going to look at themselves for asking the wrong thing. They're going to say, hey, your course didn't work. And so we owe it to ourselves to have those sort of reframing conversations. So this is a really great quote here. Yes, they want it right now, but it's not an excuse to deliver lousy training or waste time and money for something we know that's not going to have an impact. So that was the one. The second part, the second step here is to do it the right way. So if we've gone through the first part, we've confirmed, okay, yes, training, e-learning is the right approach. Then the second step is that we need to do it the right way. So there are multimedia design principles. If anybody's ever heard of Ruth Clark and Richard Mayer, they've got a really great book on multimedia learning principles that research science-backed ways to build this stuff. So for example, not putting text on the screen and having a narrator read the exact same text. That's the modality principle. We can read faster than people can talk. And so we are actually creating conflict, and it depresses learning. Whole series of things. I don't know if anybody has ever seen that book, E-Learning and the Science of Instruction. It's fabulous. To me, it's kind of one of the must-have, must-read type books around building e-learning, and it really does matter. There's another book, and the principle is sort of, just because you tell them, that doesn't mean they're learning. So telling ain't training. And so the instructional design piece is really super, super important. So then that brings us to the third one. I don't know if anybody here has ever had somebody tell you, it doesn't matter what it looks like, just get it out, just get it done, just publish it. And that's really not true at all. So the look, we need to get the right look. Some fascinating research talks about the power of first impressions. So your first impression is happening subconsciously in our minds super, super fast. So fractions, 30 thousandths of a second. And kind of our lizard brains that power our subconscious, they make judgments on the quality, the credibility. They've even found on the perception of usability is all based on first impressions, which are 94% related to the design. So not the content, not it is, but it's, what's that visual experience? So if somebody ever tells you, hey, it doesn't matter what it looks like, just get it out, maybe you can kind of point to this, and there's a link here that you can read more and find out about it. But really, really important. Every time I hear that, I sort of cringe and bolster myself to kind of have that conversation with people. Then sort of along these lines here, this gets back to some of the research from Ruth Clark and Richard Mayer that I was talking about as well. Pictures beat text. There's a reason you don't see bullet points on billboards as you drive down the highway, right? We can process visuals a lot faster. There's data that tell us that it's a lot more memorable. So that's one of the really succinct takeaways. Pictures beat text. And that's kind of the three things here. So if we make sure that training is the answer and we're doing the right stuff, that's step number one. And once we do that, we need to be able to have some foundation to design for the way people learn. So kind of understand learning, understand those cognitive load and those kind of principles for how our brains work. And then if you can do those two things and use visuals, get the right look, that really we can, that's where some pretty cool, amazing things happen. And let me see, I've got a transcript thing here. Sure. So at the intersection of those three things, that's where some really pretty powerful, effective things happen. And so to that point, to sort of reflect on those things, here are sort of a book for each of those categories. So for that first one, there's a really fantastic book. It's called Performance Consulting, and it talks about when you get the request for the course, here's how you confirm that's going to be the right approach, or how you reframe it to guide it to another direction. And one of my favorite ways to have that, because those conversations can sometimes be pretty difficult. There's a improv comedy trick. So if somebody says, "Hey, can you build a course?" If you say no, you sort of set up this maybe not quite comfortable conversation. If you say yes, so yes and is the technique. Yes, I'm happy to build that course for you. And would you also be interested in better, cheaper, faster, more effective? And that feels a lot more collaborative in my experiences, makes that conversation easier. So Performance Consulting is a really great book to kind of learn more about that process. The instructional design piece, we talked about that. I mentioned the book several times. That's the Clark and Mayer book. Visuals, Connie Malamed is she's an e-learning coach, is her website. And this is a really great book. You don't have to be a graphic designer to be able to align your designs for learning. She's got a lot of great principles and examples in there. So if you haven't seen any of those, very much worth a look at those. Those are sort of three of my favorites. And then as our kind of final step here, we'll take some questions and then we can pass it over. But e-learning courses, if you've done it, you're probably familiar with this, but I just want to kind of, for anybody who may be new, typical e-learning tools like Storyline, Captivate, any of the other ones that you could use. Typically, when we're publishing those, it's now HTML5 format now that Flash is gone. Most tools will generate the zip file for you. So there are a whole big pile, hundreds of interactive tools and files that all work together in that zip file. And then to get that out and distribute it with the world, we need to get it, onto a web server into the cloud somehow. So that's the steps of publishing your content. So I'll pause here, see if we have any questions or comments. I'm really curious if that's all review stuff for people or anything new before we switch gears. Did I miss anything in the comments or anything else, Tim?
No, you're all good. No questions at the moment.
Colton, is that aligned with the stuff that you've seen and what you're doing?
Yeah, definitely. And I was going to say, because I have a master's in instructional technology. So, I was top to bottom. I learned, multimedia, building multimedia assets from using Audacity and Photoshop and Illustrator we had classes just learning about Storyline and Captivate, and then publishing and actually publishing to the LMS. And like you said, this was, for me, some of it was review, but also looking at it different perspectives. And I think those different, even like talking points, like the first impressions are 94% design related. That's something I couldn't have put a number to that, but it definitely, me being the kind of person I am, that design part especially looking, I think, as e-learning's evolved, it's becoming more and more important, you know, beyond just having the good content. It's a lot more, design related, because just visually, you know, if you, in that little stuff will bug me, like if I see on one page reviewing something, the font is, you know, shifted over right 10 pixels. It's like that stuff, it's like, to the minds of other people, it's minuscule. It's like, oh, it's, you know, it's a little shifted. What's it going to do? But it's that subconscious, you know, I thought about it. I noticed it. There's someone else who's going to notice it. And then it's taking away from what the actual objective is, you know, because they're distracted. So it's that piece about it. I didn't, like you said, that 94% is definitely a good number and something I'm going to, you know, reference to. And also I thought it was cool. It's kind of funny, actually. My one professor, she actually said in my master's program, she's like, if I see bullet points on anything you give me, I'm going to give it back to you and say, take them out, because it's bullet points. It really does. It's that listing. It's just like, I mean, we can all, you know, more times than not, most of the people you're trying to reach, you know, we can read. We don't want just bullet points. And even if it is kind of some kind of list, you know, even just the bullet points themselves, she's like, you don't need them there. It's just, you know, one other thing to kind of distract or people get, you know. But
cool.
It's definitely, and even to this point, the publishing and distribution, I mean, that's, this is all definitely, like I said, some good takeaways and some stuff I definitely picked up on, and I'll be kind of relaying to my team. So
cool. Thanks. Appreciate it. So, you know, where we'll sort of shift gears here, I'll pass it over, but I think, you know, he'll tell us a little bit more when you're trying to distribute this stuff, if it's for your own portfolio, if you're using it for work to your learners, to your audience. You know, one of the biggest challenges from, you know, beginning of time with all this stuff is, you know, I don't have a web server. How do I get access to a web server? You know, how do I do this stuff? If you're in an enterprise, there's often a lot of bureaucratic red tape and firewalls and all of that sort of stuff. So I'll pass it over, Elson. I'll let you guys take over. You're the experts here, and it'll show you how quick and easy it is, and some of the insights you can get from that.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Can you make me a host again? I will share my screen.
Yep. Let's see. Where are you? Make host. There you go. Gotcha. Okay, should be all set.
Perfect. Cool. Yeah, thanks a lot for that overview. So I'm going to talk a bit more about the publishing side of things. And can you see my screen? Cool, great.
Yep.
So I mean, as I said, we're fairly new to the whole, you know, e-learning and LMS kind of space. We met Mike a few months ago, but we've been, you know, really impressed, but also surprised by some of the lengths that you know, instructional designers would go to publish material. So some of the guides basically talk you through getting things through S3 and AWS, Amazon Web Services, which is quite difficult to configure sometimes, and it can be a lengthy process if you're not from a technical background. So this tool, which we built, it's called Tiiny.Host, and it's basically also built upon S3 and AWS, and it's just a very, very simple way to get your content online in seconds. So what Mike has done for me is he's produced a zip output of the presentation that you've just seen. And that was, which tool did you use for that, Mike?
PowerPoint. And it was PowerPoint and converted to HTML5.
Okay, cool. So and he sent me a zip file, and basically to get your content online, all we really need to do is click upload, and this is the zip file that he sent, the Art and Science of E-Learning, and click launch. And literally in a matter of 5 to 10 seconds, this content is online. So it's automatically generated a link for you, and if we click on it, we can basically see this is the exact presentation that he's generated. So any e-learning software that outputs to HTML and zip files can basically be used on this platform. And it literally is as simple as dragging and dropping. There's no configuration, no setup needed at all. So that's the basic case of getting your content online. You can basically take this link and share it with whoever you want. In addition to that, we basically have something we call Automagic Analytics already embedded to any content items that you basically put there. So basically, for example, if you click this chart icon here, you'll automatically see analytics tracking for the content you've uploaded. So this is a link which I've had already uploaded previously. So you can see how many page views it's had, visitors in the sessions, as well as a source. So you can see who's come from Twitter, who's opened it from Tiiny.Host directly or direct link, and also the countries. So this is really cool and interesting to actually measure an engagement of your content which you've uploaded. And I think that's a missing piece sometimes in people's workflows is really understanding how many people have viewed what you've put out there and where they're opening a content from, etc. So it could even be for a professional publication, or it could be for your own portfolio, etc. And sometimes maybe you want to upload content which is not specifically ready for everybody to see. So I'm just going to re-upload this. I'm going to add a link name here. I'm just call it Mike T, and I'm going to set a password for it. So this is another feature here. So I'm going to set the password as hello123, and now I've set a custom link. And if I click launch this time, it should upload it again with a pop-up, which will now come up. So now not everyone can access this. If I type in the credentials, which I just entered there, and click sign in. Sorry, it's hello123. Yeah, there we go. So the same information is here, but behind a protected link now, which is cool. And it's really easy to update. Again, you can literally just click update and drag another zip file on top of that. And then last thing I wanted to show off is the ability to link a custom domain or your own web address, essentially. So I've owned this domain called seriousdrone.com. It's just random domain of mine. And if you see here, one of the links that I've actually already uploaded is analytics.seriousdrone.com. And so when I click upload, in addition, I can choose my own domain name once it's connected. So this can be whatever professional address you have, and I can upload the exact same presentation. So let's call it Mike T to this. And if I select the zip file and click launch one more time, it's now uploaded to a branded domain. So you maintain that kind of professional look, and people are more likely to click on things which come from a known domain or like an internal domain as well. So again, it's super simple, and if you see everything that we've tried to do around this tool makes it just as straightforward as possible. We try to make it as few clicks to get your content online. And later down the year, we also are releasing a desktop plugin, which would mean you wouldn't even need to log in. You can essentially right click and host from your basically your desktop as well. So that's a very quick overview. Again, there's not a lot to show in terms of a demo because it's super simple. But I'm open for any questions or questions on Mike's presentation as well. And happy to help as well if anyone has any queries about publishing as well themselves.
You did it so well. It's perfectly there. They're off to sign up and try it out now, I think.
I've got a question from Tom. Do you help people connect their domains? Yes, we do. So the domain process can be a bit tricky sometimes when you own a domain, because you have to set up Cname records. And if you're not familiar with that, literally just reach out to our support. We'll jump on a call with you, or we'll just guide you via chat to basically show you how to set it up. And it's a one-off process. And once you've basically done that, you can basically just upload as many contents as you want to your subdomain, because it's already connected as well. So we have a question from Janine Van saying, who will be taking us through how to measure engagement of e-learning. So the analytics is the part that we're discussing in terms of engagement. Is there anything specific you'd want to know about engagement, Janine? And Angela says, so you're saying that we put the links on our website or host portfolio, you guys. So you can basically the links, yes, you can put the links on your website and you host the actual content through us. So you can, if you have your own web domain and web address, you can basically just connect that to us, and then you just drag and drop your content, and so you can put your portfolio up there as well. So you can, maybe you already have a website created separately on Wix or Squarespace, etc. Additionally, you can host specific LMS courses just on us. So you could have, lms1.mydomain.com, lms2.mydomain.com. So that just helps with branding and tying everything together, and makes it a really easy way to kind of share your content and also see who's clicking on it as well. I have a question saying, does the domain need to be pointed to your name server or Cname? So we don't use name servers at all. That's why we're super lightweight integration. So you just need to add a couple of CNames to make it work. So that means that whatever setup you have already with your DNS, it won't change. You just add a couple of records, one to verify that you own the domain, and the second to point it to us, to basically allow us to host that. So it's very simple. Okay. Janine says, on how to measure engagement for e-learning, 3 guys as his time is in link sent me.
Yeah, I think there may be so engagement in learning is often a specific context about sort of mentally engaging, and okay. I think engagement, in the context of what we're talking about today is the analytics, so you can see what those engagement numbers were. So in terms of views and visits and that sort of stuff, so there might be sort of a crossing of those definitions here. I'm guessing, Gina, you can correct me if I'm off base on that.
Yeah, apologies if it was a miscommunication. But yeah, we were talking more around the analysis of the content out there as well.
Both valid points.
Sure.
Absolutely. That's a good question. Sort of time spent.
Yeah, so with the analytics, we are improving and continuously adding more analytics to it. So we use something called Plausible, which is basically a GDPR compliant way of analyzing your visitors. So we will be adding engagement as well and time spent very soon, as well as other metrics. There's things like bounce rates, there's engagement time, there's a lot of different metrics out there. So we're open to feedback as well, and just open to hearing what people want to see from the metrics as well. We're continuously evolving the product, so it's important to just speak with the community and figure out what would be helpful for you guys when your content is live and needs to. Would Tiiny.Host be a way for small companies without an LMS to track who has completed training? I guess it depends on what's your definition of completion. So, I mean, we can definitely track whether you've got visitors and understand, for example, how many people have viewed and clicked it, and you can share those metrics, I guess, with a company or team. But if you need kind of a way to really understand if they've gone all the way to the last page, that's something a little more complex that, again, we are open to figuring out and exposing those metrics to you a bit later down the year. But you can easily, at least for now, just understand whether people have clicked on your link, etc. And especially if you keep it password protected, you can easily say that, okay, look, you had 10 visitors as well, and they've all had the passwords, so clearly 10 people have gone on the course. For multiple files, can you upload them to one link, or you have to multiple? So yes, we are releasing a feature where you can basically upload everything on one link. So if you have multiple, we also host PDFs. So that's the other big kind of tool feature. So you may have like a set of PDFs you just want to upload as one zip file. You can do that as well.